Welcome to my channel and welcome to the second part of Koala coloring. In the first part, I finished to color eucalyptus tree and now I have to color koala. But I must confess that from the beginning, when I just received this book, I thought that probably koala is one of the most difficult pictures in the book. Or maybe it's just for me, but I thought that fur of koala is quite difficult to do with colored pencils. Probably I would never start this page, or maybe I would do it the last in the whole book. But as one of my patrons asked me to do it, I tried to gather my courage, and my first step in coloring koala was quite obvious. I went and I looked at reference pictures, and I tried to find some special details which I can use in my coloring. I already mentioned that the idea of the background color I decided to borrow from the cover of the book, from the work of Alena. So I also will have some light source, probably it's evening sun behind my koala, slightly on the left, so the whole left part of the body will be more highlighted and part which is pressed to the tree trunk will be a little bit darker. But let's have a look at the fur of koala. First, we can see that there are some light and dark areas of gray colors on the fur, and also that we can find both warm gray and cool gray shades in the fur. So I will need some light and dark colors from both sets of pencils. I decided to work with Prismacolors because I really love their gray range of pencils, and there is really nice difference, very visible one, between warm and cool gray. I wouldn't say that I can see that difference in polychromoses. In polychromoses, I don't like their gray colors so much as I love my Prismacolors. I already have colored several animals, various animals with gray fur, and each time I try to find if there are additional colors, additional color accents in their fur which I can add to my coloring, because to color only with gray, it wouldn't create a very attractive and not very boring picture in the end. So on the areas of the lightest fur, like ears and chest, I will be using putty beige. You will see later that I tested French grey color, but I didn't like it, and putty beige was much better choice. It's something between grey and beige, and here it was very helpful to add at least some of the tiny additional color accents. Next thing I always try to look at reference pictures is how long is fur on various areas, uh, on various parts of the body, and we can clearly see that fur on the ears is much longer comparing to the fur on the forehead, for example. Also, koala has quite long fur on her cheeks, and fur on the arms or paws. Sorry, I don't know how to call arms of koala. So anyway, hair, fur and individual hairs there are longer comparing to the fur on the back. I also try to notice the direction of the fur growth. If you look at koala's face, you can see that fur is growing from the nose up to the forehead, and from the nose to the cheeks, to the both sides, around eyes. So I try to copy it in my coloring. As a first color, I decided to use 30% warm gray, and already on this first step, when I simply indicate for myself more highlighted and more shadow areas of the fur, I already start to work not with circular movements of the pencil as I usually prefer to color, but with quite visible pencil strokes, and it will help me later to create the texture of the fur. I forgot to mention the last thing which I noticed on reference pictures. It's that around eyes and under nose very often there are light areas of the fur comparing to the whole color, the main color of the fur of the koala's body. And in places where ears are attached to the head, uh, Koala has a slightly darker color of the fur, some darker stains, and I also will try to copy it to my coloring. On the first steps, I will be using Prismacolors, and they all will be for deciding where to be light and dark patches of the fur. As I said, I try to work with pencil strokes, but individual hairs of the fur I will be drawing later when I will switch to harder pencils, which will help me to add a little bit of texture. You know that on this paper it's not very easy to work, especially when you need to draw fur and when you need to layer. So I must say that in the end I wasn't very satisfied with the koala's fur which I created, but probably it wasn't quite easy task from the beginning. I would say that maybe later I will try to do the similar page, and it's nice that we have two copies of it, but with using paints also. Maybe paints would help to create this special texture of the fur, because honestly it was quite difficult to draw fur and individual hairs, especially on the areas where hairs have to be quite short. I would say that I did not a bad work on indicating light and dark areas on the fur and on the body, and my long fur also isn't that bad, but with shorter areas like face of koala or her back or her legs, I wasn't that happy, but really it was very difficult to work with pencils. They were simply not able to draw this texture. Polychromos pencils, and I used Payne's Gray, was helpful, but only a little bit. Um, on some areas I was able to draw hairs, but on some areas I would prefer to work with some kind of felty pens. But unfortunately my gray felty pen is finished, and because of this lockdown I'm unable to replace it with a new one. So in the end I even tried to draw hairs with simple graphite pencil, and it also wasn't that bad. At least it was able to draw over a layer of Prismacolor pigment, and it helped me to color to draw very short hairs on the head. You can see on the screen now how I started to add darker shade of a warm gray color to indicate where will be darker areas of the fur. Now when I look back at the whole coloring process, I would say that probably the other nice and successful way of coloring this koala fur would be to do the first layer using alcohol-based markers or something like this, also in light and dark shades of gray, and on top of it, of this first layer, it would be much easier to draw hairs and texture of fur. Probably I need to try this technique for one of the other furry animals in this book. It's a good thing that there is a lot of pictures here, and I have a lot of pictures to practice and to improve my skills of coloring fur. Anyway, I still hope that you will find something helpful in this video. There will be the third part also because my notebook doesn't like to create long videos. It's easier to create shorter videos, so I divided this process of coloring koala into two parts, and in the third part you will also see how I struggled with copying background of Selina Fennec.